What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday we had like a bunch of retro news, which was interesting to go through because it was some stuff that we've never really seen before, but it's from like the 90s. So it just kind of popped up. We're going to go over that today. We're also talking about Blue Point because we could be coming up on their next game, which you definitely want to keep an eye on them because they are making some really good stuff right now. And then Capcom with DLC that to me is barely DLC. It's more like selling a cheat code. So we're going to take a bit of a look at that. Kind of snuck something in there for Resident Evil 2 after its release. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure you hit the like button. It does help out. And get subscribed as we work towards 300,000 subscribers. We're here every morning, weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you have that little bell check, too, because apparently YouTube unchecked it for a lot of people. We're going to start today with Sonic, a Sonic game that is maybe not one that you were thinking of, because it's not like a newer Sonic game. It's actually an older one that's been kind of tweaked a bit, and this was kind of cool. It's called Sonic 3 Air, and it actually works off of Sonic & Knuckles for Steam on the PC. They put out like a really quick teaser / trailer for it. The Air stands for Angel Island Revisited. It has native widescreen support, time attack, free roam modes, and a number of other options built in. It's all made by one person as well, and it's available right now. You can go download it. You just need to make sure you have a copy of Sonic & Knuckles that you own on Steam. But it is a really neat thing to see. And of course, I mean, it's always fun to see older games kind of get improved a bit over time. We had those like AI textures kind of get fixed up and everything through AI. So they keep breathing new life into some of these retro games because the way we're going with games as a service, people might end up playing more of those now going forward. Also, if you were someone who was kind of on the fence with the Labo VR stuff, you're not sure if it's something you want to get, you want to spend the money on it, even like 40 or 50 bucks, you're not really sold on it yet. Well, Best Buy is actually going to be holding a time where you can go in and demo it. You can try it out. Now, this isn't really new for Best Buy when it comes to VR stuff. They've done this for things like the Oculus Rift. I believe they've done it for the Vive, but I know they've done it for the Oculus Rift, where you kind of walk in, they have like a little area set up so you don't run into anyone, and then you can try it out. It made a lot of sense for Oculus and Rift, obviously, or Oculus and then Vive, because those are massive investments. You're buying a pretty good PC, and then you're also spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the equipment to then hook up to that PC. So there's a lot going on there. It's a much lower risk when you do something like Labo. Nonetheless, though, you'll actually see here you have to pick kind of your location and everything, state location, all that. But they're going to be doing April 14th from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. in select stores. You'll be able to walk in and try out their like variety kit or the goggles with like all of the different expansions that they have as well. Most people, I think, right now are going to walk in and sit down and are going to ask about Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey. Those, of course, are not out yet or won't be out April 14th. You'll have to wait 11 days for the 25th to roll around for that, but this will at least give you an idea, having it on, looking around, seeing how it all looks, and then of course trying out the accessories, because I think a lot of people are going to mostly get the regular goggles, like the lower one. I think it's just the headset and the blaster, and then maybe they'll buy some of the other expansion ones. Maybe that camera, just in case they get crazy with Pokemon Snap, but at least to try out Breath of the Wild and Mario. So, interesting there. You can go try it out at Best Buy and see what you think. Also, just for fun, Shuhei Yoshida actually kind of chimed in with the Labo VR stuff. Of course, we all know him from Sony, obviously, but as you're seeing here, people pressed him a bit about the Labo VR, and he said that he did pre-order it, not really sure which one or anything. Of course, he is the president of Worldwide Studios, Sony Interactive Entertainment and everything. Pretty funny to see that. Not surprising, I don't think. Remember how people were spotting him and other Sony people at like Nintendo's Switch event and everything? So here's the thing, people think that the executives and stuff on either company and everything are like fighting it out, actually like bare knuckle brawling in the streets and stuff. No, it's not that big of a deal, but I have a feeling he wants to order one to take a look around it a bit to see what they were able to accomplish on a pretty mild budget when it comes to VR. It's not expensive. PlayStation VR, it's pretty expensive. There's a lot going on there, obviously, when it comes to cables and everything, whereas this is lower end, but a bit easier to get into since you just got to buy the cardboard stuff, and most likely you would already have a Switch before you do that. Either way, it's pretty funny to see Yoshida just in there saying, yeah, I pre-ordered it. I'll check it out. All right, guys, so the quick stuff out of the way, let's get into the bigger news. We're going to start today actually with some beta footage. Now, beta footage pops up from time to time, and it's kind of fun to see where the game started to where it finished and, what we know it as now, because a lot of games, we never see that footage. We just see the end product. Well, what's interesting now is some footage actually popped up on YouTube. Here it is here. We're going to start with Mario RPG. Very brief shots of that. That's not really the big one that a lot of people are talking about. However, it was still there. Some of the things were changed, but honestly, I looked at it and it looked very similar to what I had played and you and everyone else probably played when that released on the Super Nintendo in the 90s. And this is actually from a show called Game Catalog 2. It was a 90s Japanese video game show, and it's hosted by Famitsu. And they went through everything and they started to discuss not only Super Mario RPG, both of these were before their release and everything. But they also talked about Super Mario 64. Now, it's kind of a longer show here that we're seeing, and it's kind of been cut up a little bit. But for Mario 64, that's the big one that a lot of people pointed out. It is really, really neat. Now, some of the portraits were different. A lot of people noticed Cool Mountain's portrait was a bit different. I also noticed in the beginning, the opening area where you're running around and outside the castle looked a bit different as well. And then the funniest thing ever is Mario's, his scream and his voice. It seemed to be placeholder voices, but when he gets actually lit up by Bowser with fire, it just has this massive scream, and it's just so funny to hear. But the other thing that I noticed when I was watching this, because this is in the 90s leading up to the 64, the Ultra 64's release, was everyone's astonishment at 3D. It's really, really funny to go back and watch these because of that. People are just amazed. They don't know what to think because of course we were so used to 2D. It's some very basic 3D stuff. Nothing like what Mario 64 did with that joystick where it introduced it and we were like, wow, this is insane. It really is. Go back and watch some of these people playing Mario 64 and it's beta form, and they are just confused. They are just blown away by it. And that's the thing I said before. I don't know if we'll ever get that moment. Even VR, while it does give some people that crazy moment, it's hard to actually see it for yourself, whereas people are watching these shows and seeing cutouts and magazines and stuff, and that was enough to blow some people away. So it's pretty funny to see that. The beta stuff's cool. I would go back and watch it. It's a couple minutes for Mario 64, a minute or two for Mario RPG. Either way, though, fun to see where a game started and how it finished up. It could have been even crazier before what they showed on this TV show, and maybe that's kind of something that the Nintendo employees have as their secret, what it was before it even showed up at that TV show and then what it turned into. So who knows? I'm sure Nintendo has some crazy ideas though in the background. Next up, let's talk about an unreleased, never dumped online or anything, a Game Boy game that pretty much was kind of lost to time. It was canceled. It's Sukira. And what was odd about this situation is someone actually managed to find them. It was 4 different cartridges, and it was kind of broken up into different levels and everything, and some were incomplete, and they were going to try to stitch them together is what they were saying. They were missing their straight up plastics, so you can see the chips, the EEPROMs and everything. Very, very much prototype form from what we saw. Those actually sold online the other day. Yeah, here's an image of them here, kind of the group of the Game Boy games. And then we can actually see the pricing at $2,729. Still $4.80, by the way, shipping. 37 bids, though, on it. That ended April 7th. And what's interesting about this situation, they've never been dumped before. We've never really seen them outside of a piece that Kotaku ran and some other news organizations, 2 or 3 years ago, 2016. And we've all been wondering if that would ever get dumped online, and it's never been. Now, someone has actually purchased these, and what everyone is hoping for right now is that they can dump all of the different cartridges and people online can come together and try to at least put it together into one file to where the levels are as close to playable as possible and won't crash your emulator at that point, because this is a game that just never made it out the gate. We never really saw it, and it is based on Akira, so naturally people would really like to see that. It was kind of like a 2D side-scrolling, and then they had these driving parts and levels and everything, so very much a bunch of different ideas kind of thrown together. But pieces like these in history are really, really cool. So I hope whoever bought it either sends them away, or, well, they probably won't send them away because they spent almost $3,000 on them, or just has a way to dump them. You can dump Game Boy games fairly easily now, and I hope that's why they bought them, because originally the person who owns them didn't seem to want to part with them, and I guess they had to at this point. So maybe now we can finally have Akira dumped to the internet so we can all try it for 5 minutes on our Game Boy emulators, because it sounds like it's 2 levels and they're kind of broken. Next up, let's talk about Resident Evil 2. because there's an interesting piece of DLC. I say DLC in quotations because it's not really DLC as much as it is a sold cheat code, technically. So what's happening here is on the Xbox store, for $5, you can actually pay to have all in-game rewards just like completely unlocked. Something you would normally do by playing through the game multiple times and unlocking them, speedrunning, beating it over and over again, essentially, and getting all of these rewards. It's kind of, I figured the reason they made the game the way it was and introducing this is really just how you would kind of cheat the system, essentially, cheat the game, and not actually do it yourself. Which actually reminds me, I need to read something. You cheated not only the game, but yourself. You didn't grow. You didn't improve. You took a shortcut and gained nothing. You experienced a hollow victory. Nothing was risked, and nothing was gained. It's sad that you don't know the difference. Wow, gaming's got a lot more serious since I was younger and playing games. I get what I'm looking at here is them charging for a cheat code. Back in the day, we would punch in level select, level skip, all kinds of stuff for fun, and then basically just run through the game and break it and everything, and that was fun. I don't really like this trend as much, to be honest, looking at this, because that means that they are selling you the game and then you are paying them additional money to not play that game completely the way that they had originally intended you to. I do also wonder if this is mostly Capcom as looking at this saying, oh, we can get some money after release now pretty easily by just offering them away to unlock everything. That way, if they haven't yet, they give us another $5 bill and they're off and running. Whereas I have a feeling some of the developers are thinking, wait, we developed the game so that they would play it and unlock the stuff, you know, like how they did in the 90s. In our last bit of news, let's talk about Blue Point, because they are, of course, working on another project. You may have played their last one, which is Shadow of the Colossus, that they have deemed kind of a remake based on the amount of work and effort that went into kind of redesigning the game itself to make it all work on the PlayStation 4 and look a lot better and run a lot better. And they've done several other things as well in the past. The Metal Gear Solid collection, I know they worked on that. The Uncharted collection. They've been pretty busy, and now we're kind of looking forward to the next project. And a lot of us are figuring, okay, maybe they're going to do something like Demon's Souls, which I think most of us, I think if we had to pick right now, what are they working on? Most of us are going to pick Demon's Souls, because that's at least what's been rumored and what we're thinking about. But they had some interesting comments about their next project, saying, for Shadow of the Colossus, we don't call it a remaster, we coin it a remake due to the complexity of the project. And moving forward to our next project, we call it a re-envisioning, given that it goes well beyond what we thought was possible on Shadow of the Colossus. So this is something else, because Shadow of the Colossus was already really massive in terms of what they did in the back end. Not everything that we could see, but it sounds like they had to put a lot of work in to get that game to where they wanted it to be in terms of how it was running, performance, and everything else. A full re-envisioning, I wonder if they would actually like take an older game and change it around. That's kind of what Blue Point's been known to do at this point, is essentially remaster, remake games. So we have to assume at this point that what they're doing is a remake or a remaster. And if it is a massive remake, that could be really, really cool. It could be Demon's Souls, and the reason I look at them saying re-envision is because that game needs some work. Controls, a lot of quality of life stuff just to bring it up to standards of the current Souls games. It needs some time in the oven. I also thought, wouldn't it be cool if they did something like the original Metal Gear Solid? That would be re-envisioning it, because some of that stuff we've seen it in Twin Snakes, but they had to make up a lot of those cutscenes to make it fun and crazy and interesting. But if they wanted to go slightly more realistic with it, Twin Snakes was not very realistic, by the way. If they wanted to go a bit more realistic with it, they could, and that would technically be them kind of re-envisioning the game. I personally would like to see them do something like Metal Gear Solid, the original one. I know some people would be really annoyed by that, because a lot of people want Demon's Souls, but man, would that be something else. They could also, I guess, technically do Ratchet and Clank, maybe. I guess they could, like, re-envision Ratchet and Clank and some of the older ones or something. A lot of possibilities out there. Let me know what you think they'd be working on. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today. Whether it is Resident Evil 2's kind of paid unlock system, their paid cheat code thing that normally we just enter into the game and then everything would be unlocked. What do you think about that? Do you think it's good for time-saving purposes? Or do you think it just kind of ruins the whole point of the game and you don't want to see that kind of continue forward? Because it seems like it just kind of got slipped in there. Also, what about Blue Point? What do you think they're working on? Very curious about that, because I like to follow them based on a lot of the remakes and remasters they've been doing. High quality. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.